I've been watching you, girl, from across the room. You look so good, I can't take my eyes off you. Let's sneak off to the enterprise room where we can be alone. 2001's been lots of fun, but looking for its own.
All right. It's the Spec Sheet. I'm Michael. He's Curtis. Hi, Curtis. Hey, babe.
I'm Curtis.
It's a pleasure to be with you. We are live. It is May 18th, 2024, and this is a show where we generally talk about tech, and I suspect we might be doing some of that tonight.
Maybe.
So take a look at our website. It is specsheet.tech. That is specsheet.tech. There are links there to whatever you could care about. Our web, that's our website. I mean,
that is our entire world encapsulated in HTML format. Type in keyword spec sheet tech.
I miss every company putting the phrase "our home on the web"
right
on their website. I think you can really demonstrate your age to somebody. If you want to find unique ways to age yourself, just tell people that you recall every corporate website having the phrase "our home on the web" included, and then the counter, of course.
Yeah, the two, the counter. Well, there's a third one I'm going to add to it, which is www. Like type in www dot.
I still do that for good measure.
Every domain that you see, you type in www just to see.
And what I'll do is I'll type http:// but only one / because I want to see if it's paying attention. You know, really,
there you go.
Keeping the internet on its toes.
I think it's important to double check whether or not it's case sensitive. So what I like to do is to know, I don't want to look to see what kind of hosting platform a website is on, but what I'll do is I'll type things in caps and lower on URLs just to see whether or not I get a error message for it. Because then I know whether it's Apache or Windows. Windows doesn't care.
Curtis, you went far deeper on this than I did. I mean,
you're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
Granular level, almost. Anyway, so specsheet.tech, that's our website. And, if you want to throw us a few clams over there, you can do that as well through our Patreon, which is linked. What is it? Is it patreon.com/specsheettech? Is that
I believe that's correct.
I'm taking a stab in the night here, and guess what?
I believe
my marketing instincts were right on point. So
let's just say we've attempted to brand on our home on the web is Specsheet Tech. Look for us. Type in keyword Specsheet Tech in your browser today, and AOL communities will bring up our home on the web.
So we've rounded up a few stories here to chit-chat with you about this evening, and let's go ahead and take a look at this one here. And I know we had a Winamp story in the previous broadcast, and I'm sorry about that.
You need to have, I don't know if you have any skills on the piano, but I wish you had a little piano beside you that you could play little theme songs, and we could do the Winamp theme right now.
I need to readjust my window size here. That's
I wish that you and I could be on the side while you do this full screen.
That's the problem here. I meant to, that's the one I wanted. But yeah, now I've got to move myself to the other side. That really is garbage. You know what? I don't understand why you can't move that little...
Try doing...
Look at what I'm complaining about.
Let's do this on the fly. You can actually add another source inside Restream. That would be your browser. You could share your browser window, and then your video could be sitting there with mine on the side.
That sounds like it requires a lot of clicking and whatnot.
It doesn't, man. It'd be fine.
I don't really know if I'm at a good place in my life to do that at this moment.
Okay, fine. That's one click too many.
So I know we had a Winamp story the last time we did a show, and I just thought this one was worth mentioning again because the Winamp news that I brought to the show a couple of weeks ago, while it was interesting, it wasn't necessarily what you might call good news. It was just Winamp news. But I think this is good news because the current owners of Winamp, it's a company called Radionomy, and they've announced that they're going to release the source code for Winamp in September of this year. I think it's great because if you look at the library of plugins, as I mentioned previously, that are available for Winamp, there is no other audio player in existence that is as flexible and allows you to do as much. I started podcasting in 2006, and I can't even, no, I'm sorry, 2005, and I can't even begin to tell you, well, I don't know if you would have called that podcasting. I started talking into a microphone on the internet in 2005, and I will tell you that from that point until just the last couple of years, Winamp was a central focal point of my whole operation because of all of the flexibility and capability that's built into that. But they're going to make it open source, which means regardless of what happens with whatever company owns Winamp, it's going to be developed by just regular people. There are going to be forks of the code, so there will be various versions, much like Linux. You can download various distributions of Linux, but it's all a part of that open source licensing. This is going to be the same, and it means that there is no longer going to be this worry that Winamp just sits there and languishes and rots away and becomes utterly unusable. And especially now as we move into an ARM-based computing future where you would worry about legacy x86 software like Winamp and its prospects running in that environment as we move into this future, it's nice to see that that's probably going to be addressed. That's nice. What I question, though, is we're waiting until September 24th of this year to do this, and I don't understand why. I mean, like,
why that date?
What
is that the date that the check clears from something?
I can't imagine what's happening. I think maybe there are like Easter eggs buried throughout the code, and they're having to go through it line by line to make sure that, some dude who doxed his girlfriend he caught cheating on him through the commented out sections of code doesn't get away with it. I think there's got to be something going on in that regard. I'm not kidding. I'll bet you they are actually looking at every line of code to see what the developers typed.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're looking to see if there's anything that actually has value to cut out of it before they open source it.
That's actually my mind goes to the most fun possibility, and
I
you
like
go
yours
to the
better.
one that's actually probably accurate.
I'm sorry, I'm the buzzkill. I mean, when
I was hoping that I present
they're taking the goatsy out of it.
Yeah, the developers were injecting goatsy into the Winamp code, and Curtis is like, "Well, this probably actually has more to do with money." I'm like, "Oh,
I'm sorry, I won't go there again.
Professional here than the other, okay?"
So like the thing about open source with it is Winamp has something going for it, in the fact that it already has a very open source looking UI compared to any other video player or audio player. I mean, you look at that and you think about that could only be developed by a group of open source people who don't care about the user experience. They only want to get a working product. So Winamp's already there. Like, I hope someone comes along and does create some cool skins for it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Winamp never changes from the look it has right now. And I'm excited, and I think it's a good thing to have it open sourced.
Are you really excited, Curtis? Or are you?
I'm always excited for open source, man.
Of my decision to bring another Winamp story to the show,
dude. Like, every episode, we need to. Like, how many times have I mentioned how we need to open source FireFub, and it needs to have its own GitHub page? This is no different. I was excited for that, and I haven't done it yet, and I'm excited for Winamp. So.
Well, I'm glad you're excited. I am as well. Here's a really good example of a plugin for Winamp that I didn't even mention the last time we talked about Winamp. It's a crossfader plugin, but it's an advanced crossfader plugin that actually analyzes the waveform of a specified period of the song at the beginning and at the end, and then based on the parameters you select, it determines on the fly, song by song, where to place the crossfade. And if you know how to set this correctly, because a lot of people, when they have, like, let's say you've got a radio station with just a playlist and the songs are crossfading into one another, usually what happens is somebody has to actually sit there, and usually it'll, depending on what utility you're using to place these markers in the audio file, it's in the metadata is where you're putting this. Usually you'll just hit the space bar to mark the intro cue where the singer begins if somebody wants to talk up to the post. Then you'll hit it again at the end of the song at the moment you want the song to fade. when it's playing in automation. But this does it on the fly all beautifully and automatically, and it sounds better than what a human being would select in determining where to put the crossfade. You can even use it on weird stuff with very low decibel audio, like Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon tracks. You can put in this, and it'll like fade the great gig into the great gig in the sky into Bruce Hornsby, and it'll sound unbelievable. It's crazy, and that's just one example of what Winamp brings to the table and why I feel like it would be so shameful for it to just go away.
Isn't it weird that we talk about AI and generative AI and all these different things with video generation, and you just described AI in its like perfect home. I mean, that's what it does, is looks at data and then repeats a scripted system on it with the data that it's presented. And the data set can be different each time. It doesn't have to learn to get smarter at where to put the crossfade metadata in. It just does it based on what's given to it. And it's algorithm based, which is what all the AI we're working with now is. But that was what, 12 years ago, 14 years ago, that longer?
20
years ago.
I got
20
this
years
plugin
ago.
probably around 2004.
You
Maybe
just described,
earlier.
though, AI, what AI really is,
Think
an
about
algorithm.
And consider this, we're talking about a DLL file that is approximately maybe it's maybe 25K. I mean, it is so tiny.
And you have to download a 4 gig large language model to put in a prompt for it to kick out, some silly story for you based off of what you said.
Have you used, speaking of which, have you used...
Sorry, that's just the thought that I have, is like you just described AI. But go ahead.
Well, it really is, but it kind of illustrates I think that the people that are involved in the development of AI and the people who are considered like AI pioneers, I think these people are getting accolades that they don't really deserve in a lot of instances, because I think if you really understood what's taking place under the hood, how the dog food is made, if you could really see that and understand it, both in what's happening at OpenAI and elsewhere in AI development land, I suspect a lot of it is far less impressive than you would ever really suspect. And this connection you made between that crossfading plugin and AI just kind of made that click in my brain. Really.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, having been like a big script person in the past, I love to automate through scripts and make scripts that are context aware based on certain situations. And then it does something, different based on it, which is all just programming and scripting. And that's what AI is. This one is smart enough to understand patterns of music that it's been taught to know where the right spot to do a crossfade is. And you just described that. How big did you say the DLL was?
It's probably 25K.
Yeah. So like all of that has been distilled down into an algorithm that's that tight that just works every time you need it to. And it does real world benefit to you of all that time you would have spent with every song that you had to go through that was going to be in your automation list. You had to do all this work, and it saved you that effort, which means that what we're today, the key thing that should be the driver for anyone building a large language model or an AI system to help alleviate a need is, first off, have a need. Once you have the need, then you can solve it. And then you package those both together. I know my audio and video seem to be out of sync. That's something weird that was going on. I might come back and reload. We'll see here. But
let's see what OpenAI has to say about this. Let me just give it a...
Actually, I'm gonna reconnect to the stream just to see if that makes any difference.
Okay.
I'll use an AI algorithm to see if I can speed up my video.
Well, what I'm going to do is, since we are... I'm going to wait for Kurt. Are you disconnect? There he goes. So since we are talking about AI and its relationship to this plugin and how unimpressed this makes me feel with AI, just in a general sense, I wonder what AI's opinion of my new opinion on AI might actually be. So because I do want Curtis to hear this as soon as he gets back on, I'm going to open up ChatGPT. And I don't know if you've used the ChatGPT app It's got a spoken voice mode where you literally just engage it with conversational speech. You don't have to like speak precisely and clearly to it the way you do with your Alexa or your Google, what have you, and Siri. You just conversationally speak to it. So now that you're back, Curtis,
Yeah.
let me go ahead and do this. Hold on. So I was just talking. Oh, you son of a. Oh, shut up.
It's still out of sync.
Okay. I have to not say a thing until I'm sure that it's ready. It's almost as if it. So I was talking to my friend about the fact that this plugin that I used in Winamp years ago really is essentially AI, but the file size for this DLL that's responsible for making all of it work is only 25K in size. And it really makes me profoundly unimpressed with the under the hood guts of AI. And I suspect that a lot of the people involved in developing AI are actually not doing anything particularly impressive. So what are your thoughts?
It's interesting you bring that up. Early plugins like the one you mentioned for Winamp often used very efficient algorithms and clever programming techniques to achieve impressive results with minimal resources. However, the field of AI today involves a lot more complexity. Modern AI, especially models like ChatGPT, relies on vast amounts of data and computational power to function. While it might seem like the work isn't as impressive, the scale and sophistication of what AI can do now are vastly greater. It's not just about the size of the code, but also about the vast data it processes and the intricate models that require advanced knowledge and techniques to develop and fine tune. What do you think? Does this change how you see the development of AI?
You notice how they try to put a little stutter, a little natural human.
Yeah,
that's. So anyway,
that was Uncanny Valley. Actually, tell it that that's interesting, but that's a lot of marketing to say that you don't do anything as useful as this plugin did.
Okay, say that it's a lot of marketing speak to suggest
that it can't do as much as the plugin.
Okay.
Or that it can do as much.
It just seems to me that what you've said to me in your previous statement, it really boils down to just a lot of marketing speak designed to perpetuate my level of amazement with AI, and I'm just not buying it.
I understand your skepticism. AI advancements can sometimes be overhyped. The core of it is that while early software was impressive for its efficiency, modern AI leverages massive data sets and computational power to achieve results that weren't possible before. It's less about marketing and more about the evolution of technology. What specific aspects of AI do you find unimpressive or overhyped?
The need for a large data set to do something simple.
For a large data set to do something simple.
That's a fair point. The reliance on large data sets can seem inefficient, especially for tasks that seem simple. The reason for this is that AI models like mine learn patterns from data, and more data generally means better performance. However, it's true that not all tasks need massive data sets. There are still many areas in AI research focused on making models more efficient and effective with less data. Do you have an example of a simple task you think AI should handle more efficiently?
Why would a large language, let me think. A large data set, which may hold errors, help me with a simple spreadsheet formula.
You got to speak faster.
Large data set helps because it provides diverse examples from which the AI can learn. However, you're right that more data can also introduce errors. That's why data quality and cleaning are crucial. For simple tasks, though, it's often possible to train effective models with smaller, high-quality.
Okay, so I just mentioned data cleaning and quality as the solution, which basically says we need human beings.
Exactly. I mean, that's So you really just
It
that
sort of
was
made our point here, did it not?
they did. So you just
How
had
many
a really
interactions were required for it to basically say, I need humans to do this shit?
yeah. So I mean, this is like actually really interesting. I would like to see this as a segment of us really interrogating ChatGPT because we just got to the heart of it. I mean, the whole point there is that it still depends on us, and humans are fallible, and we're providing the data set. Because what they just told us was the data set, the large data set they described, which is the difference between them and that plugin. They're both algorithms. The difference is they're trying to sell you their data set.
Okay, let's run this by it real quick. I won't stay in this forever, but
No, I think it's great. I like this.
so you essentially just now told us that ultimately human beings are going to be required in order to finesse the quality of the data, which essentially made my original point for me. Thank you.
Yes, you're right. Human oversight and intervention are crucial for ensuring data quality and refining AI models. While AI can automate many tasks,
Okay.
human-
I'm
Yeah, I
annoyed
mean,
now.
what we just learned is that OpenAI and Microsoft and all of the different places that are selling language models, and of course, there's open source ones. It's really the way they process the data is what they're selling you, which means it's a product, just like everything else. And at the end of the day, automation and AI algorithm pattern matching, it might be better, but it's not some amazing thing. Like what you just did, that back and forth conversation and the way it presented, like the large language model of it, the way it understands context and human speech, especially English with it, is amazing. That's cool. That's an evolution of managing algorithms to take input, process, and give you output.
And
it is
does
cool.
Like mind-bendingly fast.
Right. Yeah. It just had, you could tell in its response and the way it presented it that it didn't necessarily like the tone of what you were asking it because it felt like it had to win you over. You know,
and you know what? This particular, it's amazing also, your perception of what's being said to you by AI really significantly is affected by the voice that you have selected to replicate or in order to manifest this in audible form. That voice has such a strong effect on your perception of what's being said to you and how you feel, how it makes you feel. It's really something amazing.
Isn't it weird to think through that lens and look at what Amazon uses for their speech system, what Apple is using, and then what Google use, and you think, man, they didn't fine tune this as well as they could.
By the way, what I tried to do just now was plug this specialized cable that I purchased for $29 in order to connect my iPhone to my mixer, because since it's an iPhone, you must purchase a special cable. So I purchased this special cable thinking that I was going to be able to bring calls onto the air through my phone and any number of other things. It turns out that the only thing you can bring to the mixer from the phone through this special cable when using an iPhone is media that you're playing, songs, YouTube videos, things of that nature. But anything communications related will not show up in your mixer. It's restricted to the I really want to use profanity. It's restricted to the phone.
It's funny to see you have to not use it.
It's not that I don't have to.
No,
I have
no,
to
no. I know.
it,
Just
but
like in your brain there, like in that moment, that actually was comedic.
I'm sure it affects something algorithmically here if I do. But it just makes me so angry. And so here I was trying to set this up so that you would be able to speak and it would be able to hear you speak rather than me have to relay it. And of course, that is not working because apparently that interaction through the ChatGPT app is considered something that's only allowed on the communications bus, if you want to call it a bus, and therefore doesn't show up in the mixer. And it annoys me so much. I am really close to being absolutely permanently done owning an iPhone. And it's because there's so many things that I do related to multimedia stuff like we're doing right now that would be so much easier for me and so much better if I just had an Android phone. And I know that I think at least some of this is no longer an issue if you get the iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max with the
what I was getting ready to say, is
USB-C
that
port.
you
So
can't
do
see
these
my
problems
port.
all go away if I had your phone?
I think so.
I would
I'll
be
have
able to pump
Can you
the
see that?
communications bus
Can you see
into
that
the mixer?
USB? You can't see it.
I can't see it, but I know it's
Yeah.
there. I'll trust you that is actually
Trust me,
an
that's
iPhone
my port,
15.
dude. Look at my port. Look at my port. Hold on, I'm gonna see
I
if
don't
I
think
can.
you can. I don't think if I called you after you've plugged
Hold
your phone in,
on.
I do not think that phone call is going to show up in the mixer. But
Let's
with
test
any
it.
Android device, I could go get just some piece of crap. I could go get like some Galaxy S12 or whatever the first USB-C Galaxy was and plug that into the mixer, and I guarantee you I'm going to be able to do everything I want to do on some old-ass Android phone that would be scoffed at by the average Apple fanboy, and yet here I sit. It's just this recurring theme in Apple. It's like they give you this hardware that's the equivalent of a race car engine. It's got like a race car jet engine that uses aviation fuel to propel itself. You could literally escape Earth's orbit with this vehicle, yet they've got it electronically governed at 65 miles per hour because my environment. I don't understand. Why should the new iPad Pro even bother having an M4 in it, other than maybe some power consumption advantages, I'm sure, that come along with it. And yes, it's obviously a faster chip, but I just feel like Apple hamstrings this shit to such an extent that there's no point in it being as powerful as it is, because you're so limited in what you can do. You can't run game emulators. You know how many awesome game emulators would love to run on iOS or iPad OS that can't, and
without being sideloaded. Yeah,
none of that horsepower is being taken advantage of, and it's just infuriating to me. And I'm done rewarding this behavior on Apple's part. I'm done with it.
yeah. I mean, that's what annoys me, because I watched the.
I will be an entirely Android and PC guy going forward here relatively soon.
And we had just won you over, but I get it though, because it drives me crazy. The new iPad, it's so close to being a fully functional laptop. Like the M4 chip and the machine learning chip that's also a part of it, or AI chip that they promote, is amazing. So with that, why can't I have virtualization, load any operating system in a virtual scenario that I want to? Why can't I have full access to an operating system that can do everything I want? It's really annoying. Let me see. I just plugged in my phone.
Something else I noticed with this iPad is that it comes with this magic keyboard. It doesn't come with, but you can buy this magic keyboard that you connect the new iPad Pro, M4 iPad Pro to. And when you do, it immediately looks almost visually identical to a MacBook Air.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, who in the hell would buy this? Why would you buy this? What would be the use case of hooking an iPad up to a keyboard and mouse surface that makes your iPad essentially look identical to this MacBook Air 15
It's actually lighter than it.
MacBook Air that I'm sitting in front of, when you're going to be saddled with with iPad OS.
Yeah.
What is the point of that? I can't even begin to wrap my head around.
It's got
why
a more
you would
powerful
spend money
CPU
on
in
this.
it. The chip inside the iPad Pro 13-inch is more powerful than what you have in the iPad Air or in the MacBook Air right now.
Oh, yes. It sure
So,
is.
but
I don't
why
know
not?
Why?
Yeah,
Why?
I don't get it. It's ridiculous. Let me see if I can actually talk to my.
Like, just from a money standpoint, what that iPad Pro M4 costs and the Magic Keyboard costs, I don't even know what they cost.
Oh,
I'm
you're
sure
right
it's
at the price of a
confiscatory.
laptop. Yeah.
Why would you not just buy a Mac if you're in that universe and you want to be in that universe? Okay, let's test this out.
Okay, let's see
So
if it
Curtis
can hear
has
me.
his iPhone connected to the mixer, his iPhone 15 Pro Max connected to his mixer, and we're going to see if the communications bus is able to be fed to his mixer as a result of it being natively USB-C.
Yeah, I don't see it picking up audio.
See? No pun intended.
Hold on, let's see. Oh, no, it did. It did.
Come on. So,
It did.
Okay, so
okay, hold on. Wait a second. Let me see if I can. I'm going to tell
Can
you
you,
when
like,
to start. because you
Can
got to
you,
have
like,
it
call
looks like you have
me?
to pause a little bit.
Can you call me on your phone? Just like do a standard phone
Uh,
call, and I'll just
okay.
answer my phone here.
Okay. Just a moment.
Okay. Let's just hope Curtis doesn't inadvertently give out my phone number. Ooh.
Oh, don't worry. It's not going to show on here.
It's so
Can I
easy.
do it
What's
through
a phone number
FaceTime?
anymore anyway? Who gives a crap about
That's
a phone
right.
number? I mean, I don't, at least. There's anyone that really needs to get a hold of you, they probably aren't really doing it by calling your phone number, I don't think, anymore.
If I call FaceTime audio, well, that'll go to, like, don't pick up on your laptop.
Okay.
I don't hear it though.
Okay. Okay. So, test 1, 2.
No.
Oh, let me mute my mic.
Hey, can you hear me through my mic? Are you hearing me through the?
I'm okay. Let me put you down in the mixer. Now say something. I'm hearing you through your phone's speakerphone. Garbage. That is garbage. That is so unfortunate. So it's almost as if the only real measurable advantage that I can put my finger on in having USB-C on an iPhone is eliminating a butt ton of additional charging cables. By the way, I can't hear you anymore. I think your mic is muted.
Yeah, I muted myself there. Let me see. Audio.
I know what you're going to try to do. I've done all of it.
Yeah.
I just like. I think when you were in the call with me, did you go into where you can select your device, whether you want to use Bluetooth or speakerphone or iPhone?
I started going into where I could, but I pretty much just had the option for speaker and mic, so I didn't see the other.
Yeah. Nope, sure didn't. And it's not
man,
gonna.
I really thought it did. Hold on, I got to
Isn't
figure
that
this out.
depressing? You thought you were walking around with a new paradigm in your pocket, and it's the same old the same old Apple.
Here, let me try this.
It just these are the things that just make me okay. Let me answer. It'd be hilarious.
No, it's not. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. It's not picking it up from here.
No.
I've done it though. Let me check to make sure audio is working really quick. Just to make sure it's fully connected. Hold on. Let me find stream, save, lo-fi. How about that?
While you're sussing that out, I'm gonna assemble
Can you
a
hear
PC.
That? Right.
It's playing through the open air into your microphone. I think. I don't hear anything.
Okay,
Yeah,
well then our test might be failing then all around.
And,
Okay.
you know something else that like really annoyed me is when I bought this. What?
I could see it on my mixer. I just realized. So it's just a problem of routing, probably.
You think
But-
so?
Well, no, for the call, just for what I was doing just now
Oh,
with music. No, I'm.
when
I
I
mean, that was my Rodecaster 2 that I tested it with, not the Duo, but they're the same
that
device.
shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be just an absolutely identical experience, unless there's some
it's
not that I don't know of.
Yeah, that
And when I
annoys
bought
me.
this Mac, I also, because I like to do a little internet karaoke,
Hmm.
and one of the things that I had in mind was instead of having to plug any phone into a cable, because the iPhone, again, is such a pain in the ass to do anything with in this regard when you're connecting it to a mixer, it would instead be nice to just have a Mac. And since you'll have access to the Mac App Store, you can just go in there and install that app on your Mac and do it that way. Well, guess what? Apple allows developers to not put their apps in the App Store that's on your Mac. So they can just decide that they're not going to put that app in the App Store, and then it just doesn't show up. So Apple has kicked itself in the balls, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to making the App Store feature anything to want or desire on your Mac, because it's not something to want or desire. I guarantee you, if you were to pick the top 10 most used apps on your phone, there's a really good likelihood that about 60% of those are not going to be available in the app store that comes on your Mac, where prior to purchasing your Mac, you may have stupidly, like me, assumed that everything was just going to be there. Well, it's not. So right out of the box, I discovered that this Mac was not useful to me in that very specific use case that I was one of the biggest reasons I bought it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thought.
I wanted to do karaoke.
I think you
Isn't that
deserve
like
to do
such
it too.
a pathetic reason to have bought it. It wasn't
No.
the only reason. I mean, I use it for everything we're doing here too
Right.
and whatnot. But still, it was like, boy, it was right at the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, like for me with the iPhone, I was really hoping that I could connect it to everything and do everything we have here with it. And like I was actually interested when I watched the iPad reveal. I thought if I can get a version of OBS Studio on it, then I would buy that and replace my Intel Mac. And my Intel Mac, the thing I thought that was the main loss for me for a long time, not having a Silicon Mac, is App Store and being able to run iOS apps. And I thought that Apple had learned its lesson when they did the exact same thing you just described with iPad apps and iPhone apps, where that was just a fiasco where people would get annoyed because of the same confusion. No, sounds like they did the same thing. So I didn't really lose that because I agree. Almost everything I would want to do is not going to be available on the device. So
what is the point? I mean, and at the same time, they are simultaneously going in this direction of making Mac OS more iOS-like or iPad OS-like, yet at the same time not providing you the obvious benefits of that happening. Oh, you don't like it when...
oh, no, I was just re-switching it just in case you wanted to share your screen again. I was just trying to get ready for the next...
Curtis, that threw my equilibrium off so bad.
Well, you're welcome.
Okay, so now that we're done bitching about Apple, I swear to you, what I think I'm going to do actually is I'm definitely going to get a Samsung device. I think I've pretty well settled on because they have really upped the game in terms of longevity, providing you now, I think the latest Galaxy devices promise 7 years of updates or some crazy...
Oh, really? That's nice.
It's right up there with the Pixel devices. So you could buy I know this is true about the Pixels, the Pixel 8 and more going forward. But I think also with the newest Galaxy devices, you could buy one today, and in the year 2030 or 2031, you would still be running the latest version of Android, which is actually, I think, kind of insane. I don't think they need to go this far.
Yeah.
It's a marketing thing, I think, and in reality, I'll be surprised if these companies actually stick to this.
There'll be
ultimately.
something.
Yeah, there'll be some
new
reason
thing.
why.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a security problem. There's just new threats out there that we didn't anticipate at the time we came up with this policy.
Man, you can't see any of it. I'll just stick with my Android Razr phone too. Android.
Oh, is that a Motorola?
No, this is the Razr phone too.
That's not it's not a Motorola device. I thought being a Razr meant
No.
Razr
Razr phone, like Razr Gaming. That's what I was showing. Like if you know the Razr, let's see if I can.
I have no idea. I've never heard of this. Is this a brand of phone?
Oh yeah, I'm really annoyed they didn't keep it, but I mean it's on Android 9. They stopped doing updates. But
so it's,
like if you know Razr Gaming, like gaming devices.
No, not at all. Not even slightly.
Well, you should, because like my laptop is like I'm unfortunately like all Razr, like mechanical keyboard, and my laptop is a Razr Blade 13. The one that I Fortnite with and connect to my Razr eGPU. So
there's
the
another
Razr
thing you can't do on an iOS or an iPad device. Can't play.
Yeah,
Fortnite.
my Intel Mac is the last one that worked with an eGPU, and it annoys me.
Oh, what I wanted to say was there's a really good likelihood I'm going to go with a Samsung device, and one of the big fat reasons for this is Samsung is doing another thing that Apple, I can't understand. This enrages me, dude. I'm getting like
you're getting a
pissed
fold,
off
aren't you?
right now, and it's because I know why Apple is not doing this, but Samsung includes an operating environment called DeX on their devices that you connect the device to an external mouse and keyboard and HDMI, and you now have a full-blown desktop experience right there in front of you. you would not be able to differentiate between this experience and that of a standard Linux desktop. The only difference being, oh my God, you have access to all of your apps. All of the apps that you use on your device are natively right there. No virtualization, no having to run a hobbled version of the app or the app just not being available altogether. It's all right there. And to add a bow tie on top of it, these ultra powerful modern Snapdragon SoCs, the systems on chips.
Yes.
I mean, these are utterly and totally and completely capable of driving a typical desktop computing experience. There's so much horsepower in these devices. And again, this not taking advantage of any of it. I mean, like, I should be able to do the same thing with this iPhone and get some sort of a quasi-Mac experience on an external set of devices, monitor, keyboard, and mouse. But no, you can't do it. And the reason why that I a moment ago said pisses me off so much is because Apple's just like, buy a Mac if
Right.
you want that.
Well, that's Tim Cook's thing about can't get a blue bubble.
Tell your mom to buy an iPhone.
Right. Yep. It's extremely infuriating because I don't want my iPhone or my iPad experience when I'm using the touchscreen to be a Mac OS experience. But like with what Dex does, if I plug into a dock or directly into a monitor, I totally want that experience. I want to have a Mac OS experience. Now, what I want you to do when you get that phone, like whenever you make that switch, is I want to see if you can install the Linux version of OBS, and can you plug all that into a dock?
Oh boy!
And can you run an entire stream straight from your
okay,
Dex?
Well, let's ask OpenAI.
All right.
Can I install the Linux version of OBS on Samsung Dex when connected to external devices? I didn't ask that very well.
Samsung Dex doesn't natively support installing and running full Linux distributions or Linux applications like OBS. Dex is primarily designed to run Android apps with a desktop-like experience. However, you might explore alternatives. One, Linux on...
I refuse to believe that you cannot run Linux applications in Samsung Dex.
That does not sound promising.
This is ChatGPT's knowledge of the world in which we live as of 2022. That's another thing. A lot of people don't realize when they're talking to this bull crap. You're talking to an AI that is operating on a data set that is over 2 years old now.
Yeah, I was just
thinking.
thinking.
It'll tell you that if you ask it anything about anything even remotely modern. I'm sorry, but you're an idiot because I don't know anything beyond March of 2022.
Right.
Obviously, it doesn't phrase it like that, but essentially that's what you come away feeling you've just been told. And so, anyway, okay, are you ready to?
I'm going to look up really quick using Gemini.
On using Gemini on what?
On my phone.
Oh, what are you looking up?
Can I?
You're
is
asking
the same thing.
that question.
Yeah. No OBS Studio. Here, I'll just let it.
Maybe a more general.
OBS Studio is a desktop application and cannot be directly installed on Samsung Dex. Samsung Dex is a platform that allows you to use your Samsung phone or tablet like a computer on a larger display. However, there are alternative streaming apps available for Samsung Dex that you can explore. Let me know if you'd like some recommendations for mobile streaming apps.
Maybe a more general question. Let me try a more general question. Is it possible to run Linux applications in Samsung Dex?
Yes, it is possible to run Linux applications in Samsung Dex. Samsung offered a feature called Linux on Dex, which allowed users to run a full Linux desktop environment on their Samsung devices when connected to a monitor using Dex. However, support for this feature was discontinued in early 2020. If you're looking for current ways to run Linux apps on your Samsung Dex setup, you might explore options like remote desktop applications or container solutions.
Yeah, that's a ripoff.
There's got to be a way. And
you're going to side load it.
Isn't there's no Android version of OBS? That actually kind of surprises me.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, but I would have thought the Linux version would have worked in DeX.
I'm just I don't care. You know what? I don't care. I mean, like, I don't necessarily plan to run OBS in this anyway, but I guarantee you that there would be very few things I'm going to run across that I can't do on this that I would want to do. And I think it could just about replace my desktop experience entirely. I'm still going to have a Windows machine, but I think it could. I mean, just like the thought of that, just there being a dock on your desk and you come in from a hard day's work and you just plop your phone down on your desk and everything lights up and now you're looking at a desktop. That's amazing to me. And,
well, it makes so much sense.
And just the fact that Apple doesn't even investigate going down this road despite all the power in these devices. I'm tired of people talking about how much faster what are they up to on iPhones? The A15 Bionic or A16 Bionic?
I don't even remember now. But
how much more powerful it is than everything else that's out there. But what can you do with it? I don't really see that there's anything you can do with it that would be a real use of its capabilities. Like, I don't see a whole lot you can do to really tax the capabilities of this super hyper advanced hardware that they're putting in these devices now.
Listen, Michael, at Apple, we hear what you're saying, but we want to remind you right now, you could take your iPhone, point it at a table in your kitchen or dining room, and you can have a T-Rex
else with it.
Well, you can have a T-Rex appear in augmented reality right now and interact and scale with your environment.
Earlier this month, NeoWin reported about an upcoming change that Microsoft is testing, and the company wants to encrypt user drives by default. This was already a commonplace thing in Windows 11 Pro. It looks like the same thing is going to happen to home editions of Windows as well. Interestingly, it's been found that the default software-based BitLocker encryption can lead to massive performance loss. Meanwhile, over on Linux, Google's Eric Biggers recently started working on various tweaks to the AES XTS encryption protocol and its implementation, and it was found to massively improve performance on AMD and Intel chips. So I don't even know why anybody at this point would bother entertaining BitLocker as a worthwhile means of protecting anything. I mean, I have seen over the course of the last year numerous separate stories of separate instances in which vulnerabilities in BitLocker were discovered and various zero-day exploits. BitLocker is compromised. BitLocker will not protect your data. BitLocker is useless to you. There is a
and read writes like that describes the performance hit that your
that too.
Your read writes take from that. Like encryption, good. Slowing down your system when the key activity is reading and writing data, bad.
KeyPass is the name of the old full drive encryption suite, and it went away because the developer at some point just decided that was it KeyPass?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't think so. No, that's a password safe.
Yeah.
Do you remember? It was like it was really popular about 10 years ago.
Oh, are you talking about the one that the guy who was on?
It would have you move your mouse around to generate entropy, and you would select which drives you want encrypted.
Is it like the GRC or GRP? The guy who used to always do the show.
It's not Steve Gibson.
Okay, it's not his program.
No. Okay. Anyway, shoot. I'm going to find out because this is going to drive me mad.
Right.
Full drive encryption.
Put a date check on that of 2010.
Let's see. There was son of a bitch. This is going to really bother me until I figure out what it is. Anyway, it's going to come to me, and let's see. There's TrueCrypt was its name. Okay,
I've heard of that. Okay, I've never used it.
It was amazing. It was like legit open sourced encryption Only it wasn't open source. There was a single developer behind it, and he decided to give up, and he open sourced the software, and that forked into what's called VeraCrypt, VeraCrypt. I've used this. I think it's fabulous, and I actually lost a PC, a full laptop PC, back in 2019. Effectively, it was taken from me by people that I don't trust, and it was stolen, and I didn't care because I knew that this was on there. I had nothing to worry about, at least from these people. I'm not saying that if the NSA got a hold of this, they wouldn't be able to figure some things out.
Yeah.
But the average person who's going to steal your laptop is getting nowhere with this. So you install it, it has you go through a few phases, and it'll even have you randomly move your mouse pointer around to generate what's called entropy, which is real randomization. There are a number of ways you could generate this, either by moving your mouse around randomly. There's even an approach to this where the application, not this application, but some encryption applications of various use cases generate entropy by actually capturing the white noise that's being generated on the line input bus of your audio device, and using the randomness of that white noise to generate entropy. And so
That's
anyway, it would actually install a bootloader on the machine. So then when you turn the machine on, you don't even see anything Windows, really, because at that point, the machine doesn't even know Windows is, and I know you know all of this, Curtis.
Oh, no, go ahead. Keep going. No.
But the machine at that moment doesn't even know Windows is on the drive because everything is totally encrypted, and that bootloader gets placed right in front of the Windows bootloader. So to even get to that, you've got to type this password in that you set when you installed this encryption software. And so a great use case for this would be, I would say, like if you're doing bad things and you're worried about the government being able to find out what you're doing if they got a hold of your PC, I wouldn't even suggest to you that this is going to help you.
Well, can we say something to that person really quick?
But I think one good use case is if you're traveling internationally and you want to take a PC with you, I think this is almost essential.
Well, to that category you just described, if you're doing something illegal or that's not great, and you think you're hiding on the internet in some way or on your personal computer, the people who are around you, if you were to count 5 other people doing what you're doing, one of them's a Fed, regardless, or they're going to turn you in for it because they're compromised. So you're already screwed. So the encryption you put on your hard drive is irrelevant, and that's a good thing.
Oh, cool. Hello. Sorry for bothering you. I want to offer promotion of your channel, viewers, followers, views, chatbots, etc. The price is lower than any competitor, Curtis.
Well, I'm sold already.
Guaranteed to be the best. Flexible and convenient order management panel. What does that mean? What is an order management panel? Chat panel, everything is in your hands. A huge number of custom settings.
Don't say the last part of it.
I didn't, and I won't.
Yeah, well, you're a professional. You know what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, I am.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so there you go. We got our first Twitch chat
Somebody
bot.
wants to help us, and I couldn't be more thankful. Thank you.
I mean, I'm already going to their site to take advantage
go ahead
of this.
And start the service, and when we see how it runs and what it does for us over the course of a couple of weeks, we'll throw you a couple Andrew Jacksons, maybe.
Yeah, let's consider this a trial period. If you can actually produce results for us, then maybe we'll consider a true payment system.
Oh.
But until then, join our Patreon at patreon.com or go to specsheet.tech and then sign up there.
This is kind of in the same vein. You'll love this. Proton Mail is in hot water again for handing user data over to law enforcement. So over the years, I can't tell you how many people have essentially suggested that I am walking around with an extra chromosome or two because I don't use Proton Mail. Well, I would rather, since I already assume that anything in email is compromised and viewable by everybody and anybody who wants to see it, I'd rather use an email service that actually has convenient features that I can use and employ in my day-to-day life, and Gmail happens to be that. I would never perceive Proton Mail to be more secure in any way than Gmail, frankly.
Yeah.
And Proton claims to be unable to read the content of email attachments. Yet in 2021, the Switzerland-based vendor provided Swiss police with the IP address and device details of a user they were trying to identify. That individual, a French climate activist, was later arrested. Shortly after, Proton removed the claim that it didn't track user IP addresses from its website. In this latest instance, Proton has admitted to handing... This is absurd. In this latest instance, I can't believe this, Proton has admitted to handing recovery email address information to Spanish police concerning a suspect believed to be supporting Catalonian separatists. Spanish police handed the recovery address to Apple, which was reportedly able to identify the individual associated with the account. So all of you people who over the years have given me crap because I don't use Proton Mail and I must not care about my security or privacy, there you go. There you have it. I enjoy paying for your Proton Mail, which isn't getting you much of anything other than a hobbled inbox that harkens back to the year 2005. I've taken a look at Proton Mail. I don't find it particularly impressive. And unlike Gmail, it doesn't integrate into my day-to-day tech existence.
And if anyone has something critical that they need to tell you that they don't want seen by others for some reason, completely above board reason, which is fair, email's not the way to go anyway. Don't send it over the line and over the wire, because I had a person say this recently. I thought it was funny and right, that anything you're sharing over the open internet is like writing your social security number and your password keys that you use for when you reset your password somewhere, like the high school you went to, your first kiss, your favorite band, who's your favorite actor, what was your pet's first name. Write all that down, put it in your mailbox, and tell people you did that, and wait to see who's the first to go grab it and use it.
You know, for years, I have lied on those sorts of questions, any password recovery questions.
You have to.
I have a standard lie that I use, and the answer isn't even an answer. It's like a series of letters in sequence with one another. And most of these services that ask you password recovery questions are stupid enough to allow you to type that same answer in every one of the password questions. You must choose 3 questions. Okay, well, I'll put the same bull crap over and over again in all 3. And so since I've done that for years, I now know anytime I'm presented with that question, when did your mom first begin shaving her legs? What year was that?
Yeah.
I know what to write. I never have to question it.
That's your password.
It's something along the lines of,
Well, I mean, like, people have figured out by this point, right, that all of those different like chain things on social media where they ask you questions and you're supposed to answer it and pass it along, tag 10 people in it. Those are password harvesting systems.
I had never thought about that, but you're exactly right.
That's what they are. They're password harvesting, because what they do is they take that in your username.
Dog's mom.
Because a lot of people have, like, you have a Facebook username, and you probably made your username similar to your email, and almost everyone has had their email compromised at some point, and you can go out and search it on the open web. And then you also have this social engineering hack from those chain messages. You're stuck. You've given if you've ever filled out one of those, you need to go back and reset every password you've ever used.
My username for every online service, Billy Ocean Fan.
Hey, okay. I am my Caribbean queen.
T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T fined $10.2 million because they lied to people about unlimited plans being unlimited, and they lied to people about free phones being free. $10.2 million to be paid
to who?
Each of these companies, I guess, to the FTC.
Right?
Isn't that just like when the CEO of AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile wakes up in the morning and drops a deuce? That 10.2 million was made during his toilet time. This is not something that I like. I think back to when I was a kid, and a major company would be purchased for 400 million, like in the 90s. You would hear of a company and we're talking mainstream large companies, household name companies with global market share, and you'd hear about them being bought out, and the purchase amount would be something on the order of $382 million, and you'd hear that and go, "Whoa, by golly geez, I sure hope someday I can make a business
Right.
be that big."
Yeah.
And then you fast forward just 25 or 30 years, and now companies are being purchased and sold for 40 billion. Billion
Yeah.
being 1,000 million. So we're talking orders of magnitude in terms of the perception of what a company should cost from, let's say, 1994 to 2024. I don't know what the mechanism is that behind that has caused that, if it's psychological or if
I've got something for you,
if the
but
money supply is actually far more worthless than any of us actually realize at this moment. And so therefore, a company that would have sold for that $400 million in 1994 now sells for $41 billion, and yet the inflation rate would only have that same pool of, let's say, 400 million in 1994 being worth maybe 800 million to 1 billion in today's
it would only
money.
be like 7 to 11% with inflation, like probably less than 7% up until recent times.
So what happened?
Oh, dude. So there wasn't that money and that value has been expanded out of thin air. So it goes back to what you're trying to say about the actual dollar in this example being it's fake. It's completely fake. So we've
But the
inflated.
money actually shifts from one account to the other, like when these companies are bought. I mean,
Yeah, but that's the Federal Reserve.
Elon Musk actually submitted a payment for like $42 billion for Twitter. And if this were 1994, he would have paid 400 million, let's say, or even 800 million. And we all would have stood back aghast and said, "Whoa, holy crap."
But remember, he has companies that have been so valued, so highly inflated in their value, just like everything else. It's not a knock just on Elon Musk, but everything's been so overvalued and propped up by the federal system pumping dollars in, and we haven't been called to task yet to basically do what you hear all the time on, audit the Fed, audit the Fed. If they actually audited the Fed and tried to call back every dollar that they have, let's say 15 cents back 25 years ago of what they actually had, which was already inflated from numbers in the past anyway, that 15 cents is still 15 cents today. And maybe through inflation has gone up to 25 cents, 32 cents maybe.
Right.
But the monetary system and the financial institutions, the stock market, all of that has inflated that 32 cents to be like $400, $500.
In
and
certain regards, though, only in certain regards, because.
But the thing is that all of these people you're talking about, they put in smaller amounts of money into the financial system, and the financial system gives them back that higher value. It's all about valuation of your companies and stock market potentials, and money being given to you at for a certain period of time at zero or negative almost interest rates, to where I give you money and you give me back more money. That's what's been happening. You put your money on the stock market and then you own shares of that product or that company, and it gets over and I'm way out of my league and what my knowledge is here, but just my opinion, the stock market gives you back a valuation of it that is so inflated from reality that Elon Musk maybe, and I'm going to make up numbers, put $200 million into the stock market through his businesses and was given back billions of dollars to where he can write a check for $42 billion or $41 billion. But all of that magic happened within stock market and investment schemes throughout the financial institution. And it was all processed by the Federal Reserve. They're the ones who are making this money show up out of somewhere. And it's like a Ponzi scheme. I mean, it's exactly what it is, if I'm correct.
Speaking of which,
Yep, go ahead.
FTX.
Get me out of this because, yeah, I'm way out.
Nearly all of FTX's former customers are going to get back almost 100% of the money that they lost at the time of the cryptocurrency exchange's collapse, if not more. FTX said in a statement last week that it expects 98% of its creditors to receive approximately 118% of the amount of their allowed claims. So when, by the way, Sam Bankman-Fried, who co-founded the crypto exchange in 2019, was convicted of fraud. He was sentenced in March to 25 years in prison. So when I mentioned this story to you, Curtis, a couple weeks ago, my reaction to it was, why in the hell is this guy going to prison for 25 years? If there is a mechanism in place for these people to receive not only all of their money back, or at least almost all of their money back, but in some instances more than what they lost in terms of their claimable assets at least, why is this guy going to prison for 25 years? I really can't wrap my brain around that, because it seems that in sentencing someone with such magnitude like that, 25 years for a young guy, his entire youth is taken from him. It would seem to me that you'd have to be able to demonstrate harm, which seemed rather demonstrable at one time. But now you see this, and you have to say to yourself, okay, was the case that the government made in terms of demonstrable harm perpetrated by Sam Bankman-Fried overblown? Well, it seems to me that it was, and as evidenced by the fact that these people are going to get their money back. So here's my prediction. Sam Bankman-Fried is out of jail within 3 years. He won't He won't do that time. The federal appeals court is going to throw his conviction out, and this is what's going to be used to do it. And rightfully so. If the mechanism exists for these people to get their money back, that would seem to suggest to me that he didn't pump the cash into a meat grinder and throw it into the air on a yacht in the middle of the Pacific like so much confetti. In fact, he seems to have done something with the money that could be interpreted maybe as responsible.
Yeah, as full faith and effort.
Still there. So why is he going to prison for 25 years? That seems wholly unfair to me.
This is a logic statement where there's multiple steps missing from it. It's so confusing because if a crime was committed, if fraud was perpetrated, then obviously there's a missing value. There's what was put in. It's the opposite of what I just said earlier, where you put in a low amount of money and you're given a higher amount. For him to go to jail for what he did in a Ponzi scheme type scenario, he had to have gotten money from people and been using the more people pumping money in to give higher returns to the early people just to keep getting more money in. But at some point, the money returned ends up being lower than what was put into the system because it's being lost somewhere to corruption or fraud. And then there's a crime. You go to jail for that. That makes sense. But what did happen here? Trying to follow the different potential threads of logic, did the federal case, did they not investigate and audit everything first, and they just went on assumptions, and they're the ones who have to go back and have a mea culpa here and say, you know, what we thought we were convicting you for, we shouldn't have, which opens up a whole series of questions on how this could happen so quickly, because I thought, you know, your constitutional right is to a fair and speedy trial, but fair is an important part of that. So you actually had to have committed a crime to be able to say it was fair. And it sounds like if these people are getting paid back plus interest, then there wasn't the crime committed. You could even boil this down a little further and just say the Constitution protects us from cruel and unusual punishment. And in this case, a case where money simply got shuffled around for about a year. And now it's going back into the hands of the people from whom it originally came. 25 years is a cruel and unusual punishment as a reaction to a guy causing money to be shuffled around but not lost and squandered for a year. So two things I want to mention, and again, I'm way outside of what I know.
Oh, no,
but
you're a pro.
Well, we're talking about our money system, and it definitely doesn't flow my direction. So you have this thing, the Sam Bankman-Fried and his organization, FTX, right? Ridiculous amounts of money. What was the total number of what was considered lost in it? Do you have that?
No, I don't. But my recollection is that it was something like it was like 25 billion.
Okay. Yeah, it's in the billions, let's just say that. It's in the billions. And then you have the crypto actually okay, that must be my connection. You locked up for a moment. Like you said billion and we're gone for a moment. We're getting too close to the source here. But you've got the billions with that, and then you have those cryptocurrency, the big one. I forget what the name of the company was, but the ridiculous amount of money there. Shouldn't those be economy crushing frauds that were happening? Shouldn't the implications
in
of that?
1994 they would have been, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like these things should have been like
everything is fake, but where is that cliff where the fakeness ends and reality
Yeah.
begins? And that's where I don't possess the knowledge to be able to select that cliff location and say, here it is. And I also don't really truly understand the Federal Reserve and its relationship with our money system. I've heard my entire adult life people complain about the Federal Reserve. I've heard people complain about the Fed not being audited, the need for it to be audited. Yet at the same time, I look around and I say, well, I mean, I remember Bruce Williams. You remember Bruce Williams, the old AM?
He was
money
great.
Guy?
Yeah,
I remember
he was
him
great
saying,
because if you were dumb, he told you were dumb.
He would say, "Well, people complain about the Fed, but it works. That's why it's not going anywhere. It works." And he kind of had a point. And what he meant was, you're not going to. You're not walking up to a bread vendor with a wheelbarrow full of coins because the currency has imploded. You're not experiencing the Venezuelan way of life where toilet paper costs more than the money that you can use instead to wipe your ass with. Literally, the money is cheaper to wipe your ass with than the toilet paper you would purchase with it. That's not happening to us. There are and when you look at the scope of human history and how monetary systems in various societies and cultures have risen and fallen, and the frequency with which that has happened and the severity with which it has occurred, even in modern history, as sort of the preamble to World War II in Europe, particularly in Germany, we have not experienced that, and we have failed to experience that within the confines, within the auspices of this Federal Reserve System. So that's what I would submit to those who suggest this is an evil system that is taxing us, which I guess the inherent inflation that we experience on an annual basis is a theft, and it is a taxation of our wealth that we never signed up for. And I understand that, and I don't disagree with that philosophy. Yet at the same time, as old Bruce Williams said, it just works.
Yeah, I mean, if the system collapsed, there's not something else sitting out there that's going to benefit us as the average person. That's for sure. The other thing I would say is that historically speaking, systems that prop up their financial systems, and it's an inevitable piece of every civilization that's occurred, war or lack of internal security is the first indicator that their system is falling apart. In all the modern examples and in the past examples, when your money system starts to look weak is when you can't defend the land, because land is ultimately the one, even over precious metals, defending and owning territory is the most valuable thing you have. So when you start to appear weak in terms of defending that is when you start to see the fog clear and the reality of whatever real financial system there is. So strength is the way you maintain it. It's also good to mix something else into this blender of thought, is the U.S. system isn't that old, comparatively speaking. So like we don't compare to some of the biggest examples out there that you could use for a modern civilization, considering back to like Roman times is what I'm going here. But for America and what we're going through right now, the moment there's a crack in our internal security system and ability to hold and maintain territory at home and abroad, that's when you're going to see the real problems start to show up. And like none of us want that. Like the audit the Fed idea, like from a principled point of view, I agree, because audit everything. Everything should be above board. This is the government. It should be open and honest.
Well, the Fed's not the government.
Oh, but it is. I mean, like in terms of institutions that are helping decide the quality of life of the average citizen of a country, it is a part of.
It is governing us.
Yes,
it is governing.
It's the governing system,
us, but it is not the government. It is not restricted in the ways that the government would be restricted. It's not required to place bids for things, and
okay. I'll give you that point.
That exist,
but the same openness that government should be held to in terms of open and transparency, the Fed should be too.
Well, of
on
course,
a principle.
no one. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. It's just
but the thing is, I'm not done.
Okay,
like that's a principled approach. But the truth is, the moment we do that, that's accepting the collapse of the system we're in. Because as soon as we go and look, and again, that fog disappears, and we see that the emperor has no clothes, that whatever is bad about the existence you have today is going to be completely minor compared to what happens after that. So having a principled approach at your own demise, is that really worth it? I know for some, there is a group of people that it would be, but the majority of American civilization and like modern Western civilization is not going to be in a long-term better position for having proven that these systems are completely made up.
And a lot of these people who do want the collapse, they haven't really processed what the collapse would be like.
Right.
They really have no frame of reference. They think they understand it. They think, but they really don't, because these very people, as they're lamenting the fact that the collapse hasn't occurred yet, they're popping Prilosec, or they're turning on their cable TV, or they're checking the weather forecast. These niceties that are utterly and completely taken for granted, many of them would absolutely cease to exist overnight if that level of collapse occurred.
Yeah, I mean, think about collapse and like the same social media networks that feed the ideas to these people and the YouTube videos they use for learning to prep and plan and organize. As soon as those systems go away, what are you going to do? Like, I think we should be a resilient society that doesn't need to depend on technology. We should make our experience better as a result of technology, just like our bringing it full circle with AI. AI is good in terms of how you could use it as a tool to optimize your experience. But if you can't experience life without it, that's the problem.
Okay, so PlayStation 5 Pro GPU details surface, and I think that's pretty cool. I only brought this story to the fore because I wanted to say, as someone who recently traded a useless Nintendo Switch for a PlayStation 4, I think that everybody should buy a PlayStation 4. And I say that because you can get one that works and does everything you need it to do for probably $100 right now, just about all over the internet. And the things that I had no idea, the things I've got Plex installed on this thing. I'm watching media all over across my network, and I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff with this PS4. I'm playing old retro games from the PS1 that I haven't played since 1999. I'm playing Intelligent Cube. It's just like,
can I play Pod Racer? That's what I need to know.
I just think that we've gotten to a point of diminishing returns in these gaming consoles, And we've reached a point where the user experience that I'm going to extract from a PS5 versus a PS4, granted, I don't own a PS5, so I am on a certain level talking out of my ass here, but I just refuse to believe that with these diminishing returns that we're now seeing in computing hardware, whether we're talking about computers or mobile devices or gaming consoles, I just don't believe that the additional expense of purchasing the leading edge game console in 2024, that being a PlayStation 5, I don't see I think it's a tough sell, frankly.
Well,
And I think that the average, let's say you've got some kids and they want a PS5, they don't have anything right now. I guarantee you, if you went out and just got them a PS4, a nicely kept, clean, maintained PS4 that might be renewed or something on Amazon for $100 or whatever, that is going to make them so happy. They are going to have such a good time. This is such a capable machine, the PlayStation 4, and I think that the advantages you'll extract out of a PS5 are really not worth bothering with, honestly.
yeah, I mean, you could sell me if I get to play God of War and Spider-Man on it, then that would be worth it to me.
Well, I will give you this. There are certainly various game titles that are not going to be available on the PS4, or if they are available on the PS4, graphically, they're going to pale in comparison. There are examples of that, and I will certainly give you this. But, you know, a lot of people who want to play games would also simultaneously have no idea what the games you just mentioned are. I'm one of them.
Oh no, I think with
the games you just mentioned, like you just spoke a new language that I've never heard before.
Those are the main, because like when I debated between Xbox Series X or a PlayStation, because like I love PlayStation as well. Those were the things that I struggled with, because the Spider-Man games are great. God of War also is amazing, but I've only played older versions of it. So I really struggled with the idea that if I get the Xbox, I get Xbox Ultimate and have all these games available, or a bunch of games available to me. But the exclusives that I'm most interested in are on the PlayStation side. I ended up going Xbox, but I'm really sad that I don't have these other games. If I can play them on the PS4, and I just want the experience of the stories. I don't care so much about seeing it in 4K HDR at 120 frames per second or 144. If my TV even does that. If I can do that on the PS4, then you would have me sold for $100, because I have the latest greatest Xbox, and I got it because I wanted to play Starfield and which I don't even play, and Elden Ring, and there was one other game I can't think of now.
I thought you were going to say Elton John. Okay.
Well, Elton John, yeah. I like to listen to Elton John music, but I like to use it using Windows Music Player, not anything modern like Winamp. So, but yeah, like Elden Ring looks so much better on the Xbox Series X than it does the Xbox One, and plays a little bit better. But again, if all I care about is the experience, I probably would have been fine to stay with my Xbox One or get a PS4. So that's my big thing.
The only real gaming we do is Fortnite. And I guarantee you there is no way that my kids are sitting there as we're playing Fortnite saying to themselves, boy, if only I could convince Daddy to buy a PS5.
Right.
They are absolutely not saying that. It's not even a thought to them.
Right. Having it's the key.
Yeah. So anyway, you know what? I think it might be time to end the show. What do you think?
I think so. I want to hear from in the chat. If I can play the latest God of War on PlayStation 4, add that to the comments on this video.
All right. Well, it's the Spec Sheet. I'm Michael. He's Curtis. It's been a pleasure being with you tonight, and we thank you for either listening live, those of you who did so, or watching it after the fact. And I suppose we'll see you next weekend. Bye, Curtis.
Yep. See ya.
We can